Welcome back to Transfer Talk. Good to have your company this afternoon. Let's talk all things Serie A with our Italian football experts, Mina Rzouki and Nicky Bandini. Mina, let's start with you. It was a very long time coming. Romelu Lukaku was sort of fluttering his eyelashes, wasn't he, at Inter Milan, right from that interview with our colleagues at Sky Italy. So no great surprise that that's where he starts the season.
No, and he seems more than excited to be back where he is, and you could just see that from his behavior, from his desire to already become the leader and talk to everyone, sing his initiation song out. So he is definitely excited to be there, and I think now he puts them as favourites to win the title.
Really?
I think so.
There's always that old cliche, never go back. Is there any sense that it could not be as good for Lukaku at Inter second time around?
Well, of course things have changed. It's not Antonio Conte, of course, who was in charge last time he was there, but I'm optimistic for him. I mean, first of all, let's just say it. Last time he was there, I think he scored 24 goals, 11 assists. He was not just the top scorer, but the top assist provider. 2 murals dedicated to him in one season outside San Siro. Since when have been vandalised, because they weren't happy that he walked off. But the arrival of Simone Inzaghi, it was such a strange dynamic because Inzaghi came in to replace Conte. And actually, they spent the pre-season together, Lukaku and Inzaghi, and there was this real sense of feeling. There was this real sense that actually, oh, Lukaku likes Inzaghi's type of football, Inzaghi thinks he's got a use for him. So now it's like a year later, we finally get to see the Inter team that we thought we were going to see a year ago. I'm optimistic for him there.
But there is less competition. There was less competition. There's more competition now. And he's without Antonio Pintus, who got him into his perfect weight, perfect ability to really show off his acceleration. He doesn't have that now, so he has to manage himself and make sure that he is in tip-top condition.
How has Lukaku going back to Inter actually been received? Because when he came to Chelsea, there was a lot of Chelsea's my club, I love Chelsea, this is my dream move. And then halfway through, he's like, Inter's my dream place, I kind of want to go back.
It's a really mixed reaction. Yeah. I think you sometimes, what gets missed when people are looking at Italy from outside is you almost get 2 categories of fans at a lot of teams. You have the ultras and you have the tifosi, who are the fans. I think amongst the tifosi, the fan base in general, lots of enthusiasm because, look, this guy fired you to the Scudetto. He carried you to the title. He was the guy who got you there. On the other hand, the ultras have much more of this sense of belonging, of what matters is this sort of personal connection to the team. And that sense of betrayal hasn't left them. And you've seen certain ultra groups have even released statements saying, look, we don't just go running back to someone who betrayed us before. So there has been this sort of sense of tension. And it'll be really interesting when the season starts and you get the choreographies, the scenografia, everything that goes around the big games in Serie A, whether Lukaku is excluded from some of that.
There was a feeling earlier in the window that Inter would have to offset some of their investments in terms of selling key players. Denzel Dumfries and Shrinias, do you think they'll both be Inter players come the end of the window?
To be what they are with Inter, so to move to Chelsea, you mean?
Yeah, will both of them stay at the club, do you think, or will one of them end up somewhere else?
This is where it gets really interesting, because right now what they have is De Vrij, really, and obviously Bastonia that they've held on to, who is their youth prospect. They really should keep Skriniar because he's 27, and he was honestly their best defender, I would say, last season. But unfortunately, accounts need to be settled. Denzel Dumfries was bought for the cheap from PSV. And it took a lot of work to really mould him into the player that he's become. He was a bit too attacking, a little bit reckless in the way that he played sometimes. But under Simone Inzaghi, he slowly started to learn the duality of the role and what's required to play in Italian Serie A, which means a little bit more defensive, a little bit more cautious at times. But if they can sign 50 million, they are standing firm. They will not let him go for less than that, which is a lot of profit for them. Then, of course, it makes sense to lose him. But to lose Skriniar too when De Vrij has 1 year left, I think it's too much of a loss on their defence. And can they replace them? If it's a lot of money, they'll do it. But I think it has to be a lot of money.
There's been some talk that Simone Inzaghi has set a 10-day deadline for this to be resolved because he doesn't want to get in the same situation as was the case with Lukaku leaving close to the season. I always think these deadlines are a little bit
fluid.
A manager can say it, but in the end, if the owner wants to do a deal, they'll do a deal. But certainly Inter don't really want to lose either player, but money talks.
We spoke a little bit earlier on the show about Kasper Schmeichel and potentially him leaving Leicester City to join Nice in Liga. Do you think there's a goalkeeper in Serie A that might fit the bill as his replacement?
Well, the one who's been talked about is Alex Meret at Napoli, who sort of finds himself the odd man out with Kepa coming in. He's had a really strange time at Napoli. You know, he's this player who burst onto the scene as a teenager at Udinese, really sort of has the body that you want to see in a goalkeeper. He's so tall, he's so rangy, he looks like he should fill the part. But last season was supposed to be his season at Napoli. He was supposed to become the man, become the starter. He got injured at the start of the season. When he came back, he never got his spot back from David Ospina. He only ended up playing the European games. And I think that speaks to, unfortunately, the truth that Meret has always had a big blunder in him. It even happened last season against Empoli. So I think he's certainly someone who's looking to move. He wants to play. He wants to put himself back in sort of regular playing position. I think that the opportunity is there, and maybe the potential in a different environment is there, but there is a reason that Napoli are looking
He's
to
still
move on.
just a potential, not yet a promise or anything like that.
Mina, it's been at least half an hour since anyone spoke about Cristiano Ronaldo. We must change that. We must change that.
Far too long.
Exactly. We're getting all withdrawal symptoms from talking about it for a bit. Look, there's been a lot of conversations about this sort of dichotomy at Manchester United of, I've got my goals, so I'm all right, but the rest of the team's output is down, which I think was the theme at Juventus, wasn't it, towards the end of his time there?
Yeah, it's something that sort of Giorgio Chiellini and Leonardo Bonucci alluded to at the time. They felt that with him on board, it makes it harder for everyone else because everyone's looking for him, to satisfy him, to deliver to him. I personally always feel that with Ronaldo, your team is great. I understand, obviously, the need to build your side and have the youngsters contribute and learn and grow. And that is something that he could potentially take away. But I think with Juventus, what they needed him for, he gave them, which was branding, which was worldwide appeal, selling shirts.
But not the Champions League.
Unfortunately, and also COVID happened, which just made everything worse. And he just took so much money out of the budget that it became very hard for them to really grow naturally. Of course, if you are a Premier League team, though, those problems don't exist as much.
It feels as though Juve and United were both at the same point when Ronaldo arrived. Ronaldo went to Juve when they had Chiesa. They had this sort of like attempted fresh outlook, and then Ronaldo came along and they sort of went back into their shell again. Ronaldo's come back to United. They've now got Ten Hag. They want a fresh outlook, and Ronaldo once again is in a position where he could potentially be dragging the dressing room down. The mood in Juve at the time was a bit similar, right? Where it was kind of like, we have the guy scoring goals for the goals we need, but he's also potentially damaging the rest of the team.
But I think it's worth keeping in mind with all this sort of conversation of, is it Ronaldo's fault? Does Ronaldo make things worse? Juventus didn't suddenly get better when he left, did they?
No, that's the whole.
Yeah,
they got
that's
worse.
true.
Yeah.
Last season, so it's not like
We could have really done with Ronaldo at Juventus.
But it's that fascinating discussion, is it, about it's not a black and white answer. It's not that, you know, he's either good or bad. There are parts of his game which maybe don't lend themselves to really challenging the teams like City and Liverpool, who just run and press incessantly. But my God, he won some games for Manchester City on his own Manchester United on his own last season, which I'm sure he did for Juve as well.
Here's the thing, it's a very different dynamic, because what was wanted and required from him at Juventus as well is that we don't know how good he was for them, because they went through this period where they had Pirlo, they had Maurizio Sarri, there were so much changes. So the club had problems, and it's very hard to really judge what Ronaldo's output was, because it couldn't be measured adequately, where there was sustainability and there was sort of a same coach, same understanding, and you grow year by year. Under Allegri, he still produced that remarkable Champions League comeback against Cholo Simeone's Atletico. But
He loves playing against Atletico.
exactly. But in Manchester, he came to a team that's already fraught with problems. And I think he was supposed to be a plaster, which he has been, I guess, for a while for Juventus as well. And so we're judging him by that and saying this team can't grow. But for me, Ronaldo is always the solution and rarely the problem, if I'm honest.
In one word, if Juve could by some miracle get Ronaldo back, you sound like I just feel like I know the answer. Would you take Ronaldo back?
No.
There you go. You touched on him when you were talking about Alex Meret, but Kepa, is that an upgrade, would you say, in terms of getting him in on loan and obviously getting him some minutes?
Yeah, I worry slightly that Napoli have said goodbye to Kalidou Koulibaly, who, you know, the numbers say huge transformative effect when he played for Napoli. I think it was something like a 0.8 point difference in terms of number of points per games they got when he was in the starting 11 last season to when he wasn't. And they're thinking that they can just fill that gap with a goalkeeper, which I'm not certain is going to work. But I think he's certainly someone who you see more upside to than David Ospina, who has had a career that is not necessarily the keeper you want to be basing your sort of future around and the next few years around. So yes, I think it's unfortunately, because Alex Meret was part of the Italy squad. He didn't play, part of the Italy squad that won the Euros. You should be thinking this is the goalkeeper you want to be your future. I think it's a clear sort of acknowledgement that Meret isn't the guy that Napoli want him to be. and this is trying to go in a different direction.
Let's talk about one other player who could potentially be arriving in Serie A, which is Gini Wijnaldum, who to me looked like a brilliant signing for PSG when they got him. He obviously didn't use because they love having 6 forwards who stand there not doing a lot. But Jose Mourinho loves signing a player with Premier League links, didn't he? But Wijnaldum would be a really good one for Roma, wouldn't he?
I mean, to be honest, I'm amazed that the likes of Inter or Juventus or... I mean, he is a great player, and obviously I feel like he probably really regrets that, leaving Liverpool to not have the season that he wanted to at PSG. But this would be a huge move for them. I think it would certainly elevate the output of their midfield, and when you consider all the forwards that they have now and the purchase of the likes of Dybala, I think having Gigi Wijnaldum in the middle would be perfect. It's just about the salary, because he is an expensive player.
He's on PSG wages, yeah. Just a quick one. If they can get Wijnaldum in, mentioned Dybala as well, are they contenders next season?
I was laughing there because Mina has never been the biggest Dybala fan. I think that team has some really interesting look to it. I think if you put Wijnaldum into that midfield, gives you someone who breaks the line alongside Cristiano and Matic, who give you something different. Dybala in the attack, Tammy Abraham, Pellegrini, Zaniolo. I think that team under Mourinho is just sneakily starting to look.
They'll all just defend, so...
That's what Mourinho likes, though. One word from each then. Who wins Serie A at the moment next season?
I think it's Milan again.
Inter.
Oh, lovely little bit of rival. That's what we like. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming in.